I'm gonna skin my wolf today, and I just pulled the snare off of his neck, and I had to cut it a little ways back. I wanted to keep the whole thing intact, kind of to pull it off and hang it on the wall, I guess. But I wasn't able to. I had to. It was pretty gnarled up, about 10 inches from the cam where it had tightened up. And I'm gonna just show you, this is how big the loop was around his neck. Now I measured it, and it's about a 4-inch, a 10 centimeter loop. Maybe add a little bit on there with that Stinger kill spring, but I mean, that's just enough for me to take and get my fist in. And when you take and look at a big dog like this, you know, you put your hands around his neck, you know, they're pretty thick. They got a pretty thick neck, and this wolf here was actually caught about in the middle, I would say, in the middle of his neck. I thought at first maybe he was up high on the shoulder, but he was caught right in the middle, and there's no jelly head on him at all, like absolutely none. Like the crease in the top of his skull is nice, from what I can tell here. I mean, I guess I don't know how much more educated I'll get, but he's thawed out, and I can feel all the bones and his muscles, relatively speaking. So, you know, all the way down through his ears. So I'm pretty happy about that. And I know when I built my snares and I built my killers, my Stinger kill spring assemblies, I never did put the triggers on them. And basically all that would be is when you go and have your snare set, you'd have that Stinger kill spring compressed. So this piece here would slide all the way over to here with a little latch. Most of you have probably seen all this stuff and know all this, and maybe have these snares set up this way. But at any rate, it was effective nonetheless. You can see how it's been turned. So ultimately that tells you that that spring was back here for a while. Now after, when I picked him up and he was frozen, the spring had released quite a ways. And from what I can tell on the snare itself, like the kink right there, right here where the cam was, and where the teeth marks were, it stayed there. So the snare worked perfectly. And although it wasn't right up against the jaw at the base of the skull, and again, from the struggle that I that I found when I caught him, he died a pretty quick death. And I haven't caught enough wolves that I could really tell you how long I thought that he did struggle, because a big wolf can take and make a little mess in fairly short order. But yeah, I'm pretty happy. Yeah, those are my snare assemblies. So basically a cam, I got 5/64 1x19 cable. That's my actual snare. Made 60 inches long, so I can open it up all the way. I never have to take and guess how big I want my snare to be. And then at that point I have a halibut swivel, and then I have another 6 to 10 foot anchor cable, and I make that out of a more flexible cable, the 7x7 3/32 cable. And then right here you can see my 750-pound breakaway. Doesn't seem like it opened up at all, and they are made, I don't know how many wolves there really can be that can pull one of those apart. I don't think that wolf exists. And 2 crimps on the end, and yeah, pretty happy. You know, a guy doesn't really know how his equipment works until you ultimately get some field data back. And I've listened to a lot of trappers. I mean, you know, when you listen to the older boys, the vets that are out there, you know, some of them are hung up in their old ways, and some of them they've done all the experiments, so they'll have an opinion that is relatively based on their actual experience. And there's a lot of different ways of doing things. But again, for myself, you know, kind of getting back into it, I didn't trap for, I guess it'd be 20 years, near 20 years from when I was a teenager, graduating from high school, and getting back into it. I'm doing things a little bit different, and this is the way that when I did my courses here, getting into my registered trap line, this is the way that I was shown how to take and build today's snare, and for all intents and purposes, it seems to me like it worked out really well. This snare here actually hung at that bait site in that tree, and it was set. Although I didn't trap for a couple of winters. This is my first winter back. I missed 2 winters. So these snares, they all just stayed there, and I just wrapped them up in the trees in the locations where they were, and they were boiled and then dyed in logwood dye, and they held up really well. And obviously there's 0 scent left on these, and so I don't know if it was dark enough or if I had a well enough set, but I hammered that wolf real nice. And yeah, so that's my snare right there. Yeah, so I've just got the wolf. I had a heck of a time actually thawing him out. I wasn't able to skin him, and I had deep freeze room, so I stuffed him in the deep freeze, and he froze that solid that I had a heck of a time getting him thawed. And then I lost my heat here for a day, and it came back, and so he was back at, you know, -1 temperature. So, and then I don't know how long he was actually in the snare, what the weather was actually like when he was laying on the ground. So we'll see what kind of surprises or not that I see once I get down and around that belly area, I suppose. But hopefully he's in good shape. And to me, actually, it doesn't really matter that much if I don't have a wolf that's going to be ready for the taxidermist. This particular wolf here, I think it's the same genetic line of that big old beast that I caught years ago. In 2014, I think I caught that one. So if it's a wall hanger for me, and that's where he stays till I'm old and gray, or grayer, I'm fine with that. So yeah, quick little bit of tutorial. I know I had a few questions on snares, and some of the videos that I've put out, I think back to the videos of what I should have said and what I should have included. But yeah, that's my snare, my 1x19. Didn't actually show. Here's another part. This is where I cut it. This is what's left of the rest of my 60-inch snare. But he was kind of wrapped up, and as I go along here, I can see right here, especially, this is where he was able to take and get it into his mouth. So I don't see any strands. I don't see that I'm missing any strands whatsoever. But this being a stiffer, oh, here we go. Here we got some opened up. I got one opened up right here. So he spent some time right here. And, but it held up relatively well. And I've heard people talking about how they like staying with 3/32 or even bigger snare wire. And I would say that no doubt if you ended up wrecking and having a wolf being able to get all the way through with this front end and ending up in a belly catch situation, that that wolf, might end up being able to spend a lot more time with this snare. And I don't know, maybe that's what the old boys are talking about, or more experienced guys, and they say that they don't like this particular snare because of that. But at this point, this is how I make my snares, and I'm going to stick with that program unless I somehow figure out a way that I need to build different or heavier. But I guess at the end of the day, if you take and you lose a wolf because you belly catch them, I mean, you've probably done more things wrong than needing to go look at your snare first, I would think. I don't know that. I think it'd be pretty tough for a wolf to get his front end through a 60-inch snare loop. But having said that, I suppose if he's on the run and he's got both paws up in the air, I don't know, I guess it can happen. Or a small enough wolf, or however that could come about. But yeah, it's my snare. I've got a little piece of polyurethane on here. That's for my number 9 wire. That just sits up against here with my cam and everything up at the top end, so that I can take and hang it and structure it over the trail. But I do that, plus I do I'll hang a little piece of wire into the trail and bend a little W that I can take and squeeze, and then you can also take and just kind of latch that over your snares and hang that too. That seems to work pretty well. And then I guess it all depends on the kind of equipment that you have available. I try to not come up with too many excuses on why I wouldn't hang a snare or didn't hang a snare. It's kind of a thing a trapper doesn't want on his resume. A bunch of reasons why you're either, you know, for not taking advantage of a situation, potentially, I guess. But yeah, I won't take up any more time on this video here and bore you with too many details. I'll turn this camera back on here in a few minutes and get on skinning this wolf. I don't know that he I don't think I've lost him. So I'm going to get after it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys are thinking, and hope everybody had a successful trapping season. I'll get my skinning video out here in a while, I guess, whenever I'm done. Have a great day. Solo Trapper out.